You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good. So trying to root the Avs on to victory here as we're into the second intermission. A little 2-2 tie. Other than that, it's Tuesday, right? It's one of my favorite days of the week because I get to hang out with you guys, I get to talk football, and kind of let the rest of the world float by as nothing else exists here for the next, 60 to 90 minutes.
I like it. What about you, Alex?
Appreciate you guys. I've been dealing with a cold that's been working its way through my house. So I had to miss last week because while I am in a house, it's not all that big. And so me talking, and even though I'm in a separate room, you can still hear conversations going on. So I had to be kind to my wife, who was really going through it last week. So I appreciate you guys letting me miss last week because I don't think she'd been none too pleased hearing me chat fantasy football at all hours of the night while she's trying to rest and get over a cold. So appreciate that. And then on top of that, the internet at my house has decided that it no longer wants to work. So we are rocking on a phone hotspot tonight. If my connection goes in and out, I apologize.
The internet caught the cold bug going around the house, huh?
It did. And the best part is that the soonest somebody can get out here to look at it, after I spent 45 minutes on the phone with them, they're like, we can get out there Thursday morning. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I pay for a full month's of internet. What are we going to do about that? Because I'm paying for something you ain't supplying.
Yep.
I did get a $25 credit, so that's nice.
There you go. It's even funner when you get to work from home and you got to deal with that.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah. Anyway, moving along there. The stories that we could tell on that one, we could fill an entire episode with that funness. But anyway, we'll move on real quick, fast and in a hurry off that topic. So anyway, there's certainly some kind of some news, some happenings going on in the world of sports. Anything you guys want to hit up here before we start jumping into tonight's topic of the NFL mock draft 1.0 version we do every year?
Well, shout out to Florida, right? Winning that championship.
I refuse to acknowledge.
This is going to be one of those episodes.
I refuse to acknowledge the basketball game that happened last night.
So, yeah, the March Madness is officially over now that it's national championship games in play, and we're fully in April. Masters going on this weekend, so we got some golf kicking off there. NBA playoffs here starting soon. NHL playoffs starting soon.
Where's F1 at coming up, Alex?
I'm afraid to jump in. Bahrain. I'm afraid to jump in with my internet connection being the way it is, so I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. And I'm just staring at faces looking at me. They're in Bahrain this weekend. It's the second of a triple header that we get. They were in Japan last weekend. It was a boring race. And then Bahrain, and I'm not sure actually where they're at afterwards. Somewhere else in the Middle East, I think.
Very good. Very good. We are seeing kind of the coaching hot seat take effect in NBA, as we've seen a couple different organizations make head coaching moves here over the last week. The playoff-bound Denver Nuggets were one of them, relieving Mike Malone and their general manager as well. So that's kind of interesting. I wish I had more details, but since moving to Texas, I don't hear sports talk on the Denver Nuggets. If I was in town, I would be listening in and trying to get a better feel for it. But nevertheless, they're going to go into the playoffs with a new head coach and general manager.
I saw a thing. Yeah, I saw a thing that the Nuggets put out with Josh Kroenke, who is the de facto owner, if you will, of the Nuggets, and he said that he kind of talked with his dad, and they kind of all came to the decision that they were going to make this move at the end of the season anyway. And so, if they were going to make the move at the end of the season, why not shake it up and try to get the most out of it for the end of this season? So it's a little interesting why you make that decision with 3 games left. But when you have the best player in the world, you have to take advantage of it, right? Like the Nuggets have the best basketball player in the world, and I don't know that there's too many people that would argue that. I think there are a few LeBron apologists and probably Luka apologists, and maybe I don't know, 1 or 2 Giannis or who's the guy in Oklahoma City? He's very good too. But yeah, but nobody is on the level that Nikola Jokic is right now. So in terms of just size and athleticism and shooting ability and playmaking ability, like it's going to be he probably won't win the MVP because I think there's Jokic fatigue, which I get. That's real, right? We get sick of seeing somebody be so dominant, or we just get used to them being so dominant that it's no longer impressive anymore, which is kind of sad. But yeah, it's a weird thing that the Nuggets decided to do that.
If Jokic ends the season averaging a triple-double, and there's still a possibility that he could do that, and doesn't win MVP, that's just a travesty. Fatigue or not, to have
it'll be because of fatigue
season.
Right?
Yeah. I know, but to have an 82-game season and have a player on a playoff team, they're not the number 1 seed, but have a player on a playoff team who averaged a triple-double, like how is he not the most valuable player in the league? Because if you take Jokic off the Denver Nuggets, they are a lottery team. Like his WAR, if WAR were a basketball stat, his WAR has to be 35 games. Like it just 35 games right off the top. Like that, it's just insane. It's just insane what he's doing. And because it's a big man and he's not splashing threes and he doesn't like go up to the top of the backboard to rain down dunks. Like we're just acting like it doesn't happen. And he kind of lollygag, he's got that head bob as he kind of runs up and down the court a little bit. But what the dude does is stinking impressive. It just is. So now, Oklahoma City's having a great year, and was it SGP or
SGA?
Yeah, Sean Gillard-Alexander. Yes. So have an amazing season, absolutely. But how long did Jokic have to have an amazing season before he got recognized? Like you kind of have to pay your dues. Like you don't just get it on your breakout year. That's kind of the unwritten thing of the NBA. And even LeBron didn't get it his first amazing year. He got it his second one, and then third, and then fifth, and then whatever else they gave to LeBron until they got fatigue and gave to Steph Curry. But I don't know.
But,
I think it'd be a travesty.
I mean, you could argue that that SGA, this isn't necessarily the first breakout year, right? He's had a couple of pretty good years in the last couple leading up to this, and the Thunder have certainly been a very hot team. The last few seasons, right? But yeah, this is the problem that you see with the NBA and NBA especially, right? Like I don't know that I see it as much in other sports out there, right? With the NFL, it's always what quarterback out there is going to win it, right? Like at this point, the MVP has just become a quarterback award for the NFL. But in the NBA, it very much is okay, yeah, you're the best player in the world. Yep, you're the most valuable for that team, but we're going to go somewhere else just cuz, right? And so it is frustrating on from that aspect. So anyway,
I'm gonna make a bad pivot. Tell you what wasn't frustrating was walloping all of you in our tournament challenge this year.
When you picked chalk, you did really good.
Listen, here's the kicker, and it really bummed me out because I had Auburn and Duke in the finals, but I think I had all the Final Four teams. I think I did have all the Final Four teams as chalky, but I was in the 92nd percentile going into the Final Four. And then I missed out on my 2 championship teams because I lost those games. And so I didn't get any points and dropped down into like the 65th percentile or something like that by the time the tournament was done over. But I just feel really good for myself. I was like, holy crap, I'm in the 92nd percentile. And I don't even watch college basketball. Like, what a bunch of bums. And then it all fell apart in the Final Four, and nothing that I wanted to happen happened. And I was like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah, that is the way that happens sometimes. This was certainly not my year. My lack of watching teams this year certainly showed in my my bracket picks. But
yeah,
not sure what that was. Interesting. Anyway, our system's decided to do some things all on its own there. Anyway, any other thoughts before we start getting into the mock draft here?
I think Alex has a couple thoughts, but he's afraid to share them at this point.
Come on, Alex.
I don't think he's catching most of this.
Maybe not. Alrighty. Well, at that point, are we ready to rock and roll over and into the mock draft 1.0?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty. So to set the stage here, at this point, the mock draft 1.0, we do this every year with it, and what it is we basically go through, we alternate picks on who's making the selection there, and as we go through, it's no trades, no moving the picks, none of that kind of stuff. You're the GMs selecting the pick on the board as it lies with the best to the best of your ability for that team that you're representing. Alex was lucky enough to draw the first pick in this one, and Alex is on the clock with Tennessee for their first pick of the 2025 draft. I believe Alex is still muted. We've got some technical difficulties going on
muted. There's one. All right. Let's see if this works. I've caught exactly 5 words that y'all have said since we started here. Tennessee's taking Cam Ward. I have nothing else to add. Go on.
Kevin, that puts you on the clock.
This is going to get interesting. I changed some things up. I think last week when Derek and I were doing this, I had Cleveland taking Abdul Carter. I'm changing up a little bit this week. I'm gonna say they're gonna take Travis Hunter. I think that Cleveland is kind of one of those interesting spots that they could use him on both sides of the ball. They have specifically talked about him at wide receiver early in the draft process. We'll see how some of that comes to fruition, and seeing kind of what help they may or may not need along the secondary. But Cleveland needs pass catchers, and Travis Hunter might end up being one of those pass catchers. So they're going to take his versatility and put it to use here. And we're going to see how much on each side of the ball he does play.
Fair enough. I like that pick. Had Travis Hunter been on the board here at number 3, he would have been going to the Giants. So the fact that Abdul Carter managed to slip here, yes, I get the argument that Giants have a lot of needs out there, but edge rusher may not necessarily be one of those. But Abdul Carter may very well be one of the best player, or may very well be the best player in the draft here. And with that being the case, they're going to take best player available and build around that. So the Giants are going to take Abdul Carter with this pick, and then that puts Alex.
All right, with the Patriots pick, I'm taking Mason Graham because Abdul Carter is gone. I'm going to say that they're going to go D-line 2, next best available. So I'll take Mason Graham.
All righty, and then that moves Kevin.
Yep. For the Jaguars, they were looking at Mason Graham, possibly Abdul Carter, right, in the long shot, possibly even Travis Hunter, right. So the 3 guys that they had in the top of their draft board, in my assessment, have all been taken. So the Jaguars are saying, well, damn. And they're going to punt. And because they're the Jaguars, they typically have a bad first-round pick. And a guy who I think that there's a chance that they take him, although it's a reach to take him this early, and that is Armand Membu out of Missouri. I think he's long enough that could provide some safety there at the tackle position. I think he's more of a right tackle than a left tackle. But we'll see how he slides in and maybe ends up playing a little bit of swing for him his rookie season. But nevertheless, they stay in the trenches because that's a semi-safe bet, but they missed out on the defensive players that they wanted. So they punted and went to the offensive line.
Okay. I like that pick there. That puts Las Vegas with the Raiders back on the clock here. And Vegas certainly needs lots of help here, right? They got running back, wide receiver, cornerback, offensive line, linebacker, all kind of needs, positional needs here. And Pete's first year here in Vegas, I think that they're going to do something, kind of fitting in with what we've seen them do in the past. And I think we're going to see running back come off the board here with Ashton Genty going to the Raiders with this pick.
All right. So with the 7th pick, the Jets are on the clock, and they are sending Champaign South to Jacksonville because they are going to go O-line as well. But because Armand Membu was taken, they probably feel like they're getting a steal here and not expecting Kelvin Banks Jr. to still be on the draft board with an O-lineman already taken. So they're going to go Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas.
So with Banks gone, the Panthers are on the clock, and they need some help coming off of the edge. And so they are going with Michael Williams out of Georgia as kind of their next pass rusher there. So he's just going to go right up the road from Athens to North Carolina and see what havoc he can bring on for the Panthers as they continue their rebuilding project.
Okay. Yeah, I like that one. That puts the Saints out of New Orleans on the clock, and they've got some needs at cornerback, offensive line, wide receiver, defensive line, QB. They've got cap issues galore, and a new head coach, and we'll see what that regime brings in. But with that being the case, and the new head coach being an offensive-minded head coach, I think that we're going to see them do something a little bit different and go with Shadur Sanders coming off the board here and try and potentially use Derek Carr in the last bit of his contract remaining to be that bridge as they move on to the next era there.
All right, so that puts the Bears on the clock. They are going to double down and protect their number 1 overall pick from last year. They go offensive line here. Kelvin Banks is gone. Armand Membu is gone. But you can never go wrong getting a big 6'6", 323 tackle out of LSU. So that's where they're going to go and take Will Campbell to try and help keep Caleb Williams standing upright a little bit more.
I like that Campbell pick. The 49ers are now on the clock, and I believe I said this last week as well, but it is weird to see them at the top of the draft board like they are. But nevertheless, they're here. They need some help. They're going to go to the defensive side of the ball and try and regain that that top 3 prowess that they have seemingly had here over the last 5 or 6 years. And they're going to go with Jalen Walker, another defensive player out of Georgia, but a guy who can get after the quarterback, who plays against the run well, sets the edge, and I think he's going to fit in very well kind of with that 49er mentality. He's a hard-nosed guy, not afraid to stick his head into anything coming his way, and he
I like that. I like that pick there. So that puts the Cowboys on the clock here, and Cowboys, when you look at it, they right now are needing wide receiver help, running back help, quarterback help, linebacker help, and defensive line there. And this is one of those that their wide receiver core certainly kind of got depleted here on this offseason, and arguably the best wide receiver in this class is still on the board, and is a guy that would allow CD to not necessarily have to play that X all the time, but can really maneuver him around the formations there and allow him to really get out of the slot, run some gunner every so often there. And they're going to go ahead and take Tet McMillan, the big wide receiver out of Arizona, with this number 12 pick.
He is big too. Holy crap. All right. The Dolphins are on the clock, and there's a bit of a theme here for me as I'm picking for every third team here is O-lineman seems to be the team need the most when I get to them. So I'm staying O-line here with the Dolphins. I think they understand the need to protect Tua Tagovailoa. Because as he goes, so do they. I think Mike McDaniels probably starts to feel a little bit warm in his seat this year if expectations are not met down there in Miami. So Miami is going to take Josh Simmons, the tackle out of Ohio State.
I like that for Tua. Be able to keep him upright and add some nice pass pro. See if he can regain the chemistry with Tyreek that never seemed to come to fruition last year. Moving on to the Colts. The Colts are going to make a selection here that is potentially going to end a decade-long drought of really not knowing what, maybe even more than a decade. But they're going to go with Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, and stop the carousel of different players in that position group that have run through the door of Indianapolis here for the last however many years. So I think they started the preseason with 8 or 9 on their roster in 2024. I don't expect them to have that many on their roster here this year with having Tyler Warren in. So he's going to make an immediate impact to be able to help out the passing downs. I'm interested to see how well he holds up against NFL.
That was interesting. Okay. Not sure what's going on there. Alex, are you still with me?
I think I am.
Okay.
If I'd have had my money on it, it would not have been Kevin's. That would have been
right. Looks like it's trying
I'm still
to.
with you.
All right. Looks like it's still trying to connect there, and hopefully we'll get Kevin back here in a moment. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with the it is a comedy of errors, I think, is the way that kind of looks and works at this point. So hopefully we'll get Kevin back here soon to kind of rock and roll. And while we're waiting for him to come in, and we'll get his final thoughts here on that pick. But the next pick, we've got the Atlanta Falcons drafting at the 15th position, and the Falcons require some edge. They require some defensive line, some cornerback, some offensive line, some safety help there, and there is a big edge rusher on the board here, right? The 6'5", 245 edge rusher out of Tennessee. And this is a guy that not only is big, but is fast too, right? Ran a sub 4.5 40, had one of the quickest 10-yard splits at just over a second and a half there. And I think he can really kind of fit into this Raheem Morris defensive strategy that he runs through there. They're going to go with James Pierce, the edge rusher out of Tennessee, on this one.
Yeah, all right. So that moves us to the Cardinals at the 16th pick. And I've actually seen a couple mocks that have this, so I feel really comfortable taking this right here. Again, Arizona looking to protect their asset in Kyler Murray. So they're going to go O-line help here. And I've got them taking, and this is not a former Homer pick, I guess you would call it. I've got them taking Gray Zabel, the tackle out of North Dakota State. 6'6", 305. Again, I'm a firm believer that the game is evolving and always changing, but the game is won in the trenches. It is won on the O-line and the D-line, and if you're not good on either of those, you don't really stand a chance at winning. So I'm going to go Gray Zabel here out of North Dakota State for Arizona to bolster that line. He really showed up and showed out at the Senior Bowl. A lot of people took notice of him there. If you were paying attention to that one, if you saw any of that, so that's my pick there. And I'm trying to stall long enough to figure out if Kevin's going to come back and join us so that he can make his pick. Or
so Kevin's got a little bit of some technical difficulties going on there. So we'll hopefully have him. Yes. So we'll hopefully have him back soon. But Alex, this is a perfect point anyway while we wait for those to rock and roll there, because we're halfway through the first round, right? We've got 16 picks on the selection there. And so, while we kind of wait for Kevin's technical issues to clear up there, let's go ahead and just kind of go back through and look at some of these picks here, and what is kind of stand out, what stood out to you as far as guys that maybe fell a little bit, or guys that maybe went a little bit earlier than you anticipated there.
I think it'll be, I don't know. I think it'll be hard for Shedeur Sanders to fall that far. I know. I don't know. I think that in the real world, somebody's gonna take a risk there. It just seems like it would be too easy to not take him. So for him to go at 9, well, I don't think any of us think it's unreasonable. I do think that it will be. I do think that teams are so quarterback needy that he'll go before that. Not that he should, but I think he will. That's the biggest thing that stood out so far for me in this.
No, I could certainly see that. And Kevin, looks like his technical issues have cleared up there. So Kevin, we're on to pick number 17, but Alex and I were just kind of recapping some of the first 16 picks since we were at the halfway point, and seeing if anything kind of stood out as far as somebody, if they dropped a little bit that was surprising there, or somebody went a little higher than you may have thought there. And were there any picks through the first half that have kind of stood out?
I think Genty at 6. I get there's traction there. I don't know, man. I get it, but I don't. And it is a Raiders move, so maybe that is what's going to work out there. The the rest, I think for the most part, if it goes kind of in the area that we have, there's going to be, I guess, a lot of teams that are really happy, right? I mean, I don't feel like anybody truly settled here other than maybe like I said, the Jaguars pick, and where I think, they're going to make a mistake here and try and get too cute. But other than that, you gotta love it. I mean, the Cowboys are going to be hooting and hollering if they get Tet McMillan to pair up with CD. They're going to absolutely love that. And offensive linemen aren't sexy, but all these teams do. They need offensive linemen, right? I mean, so they're not going to sell jerseys, but they're going to absolutely help. So I think it's just kind of one of those situations that it's not as sexy at the top as what we've seen in the last couple of years, maybe. But we know for a fact that if you take data over the last 10, 15, 20 years even, that if you build within the trenches, that is the most surefire way to get your team turned around other than hitting the lottery on a quarterback.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, alrighty, well, let's go ahead and we'll start looking at the back half of the first round real quick. Before we do that, let's hit up some of these comments. Folks chiming in. MD over on Facebook saying hi, asking how are you boys? We're doing just fantastic there. Millie Mills, welcome back in. Millie Mills saying, "What's up, fellas? Where did Shadur go? Number 9." And he was asking if that's to the Saints, and yes, it is. That's where we had Shadur Sanders falling to, was the New Orleans Saints there at number 9. Alrighty, so moving on to the number 17 pick, and Kevin, unless you had some other thoughts about that 14 pick with Tyler Warren from earlier.
No, Colts are taking Tyler Warren, solved their tight end issues, off to the races.
All right, so that puts number 17 Cincinnati on the clock.
On to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is going to take Mike Green. He was the sack leader in college football last year, a position, they definitely need to be able to get after the quarterback here. Not sure what's going on with Henderson. Obviously, they sunk a ton of money into the offensive side of the ball here in the offseason, so they got to hit with some youth and some early playmakers on the defensive side to kind of make up the difference there. So Mike Green to Cincinnati.
I like it. So that puts Seattle on the clock with with that 18th pick. They've got some requirements at offensive line, wide receiver, cornerback, safety, defensive line, and from what I can, and this is one too that it definitely went a little bit against the grain here, maybe, but the fact that most folks when they look at this and go Seattle, they just went out, they signed Sam Darnold, they traded Geno Smith, like they're not in the market for a quarterback. But when really kind of following the thought process there, Seattle basically signed Sam Darnold to a 1-year deal where they can walk away from this thing without much dead cap at the end of this thing. And Sam Darnold has definitely kind of shown that he could be a potential bridge quarterback there. So they're taking Jackson Dart is what I've got here with this 18th pick.
I'm not entirely sold on Jackson Dart there. I think he goes probably 3-4 picks later. But I respect your reasoning, Derek, and I understand why you've done that.
He might
that
be the
puts
best
Tampa
quarterback
Bay
of
on
the
the
group
clock
this year.
He could be. He very well could be. That puts Tampa Bay on the clock, and we've seen exactly one defensive back go in this draft, and he's not really a defensive back. So they, at 19, will get the best pure defensive back in this draft outside of Travis Hunter, and they're going to go Will Johnson, the 6'2", 202-pound corner out of Michigan.
Yeah,
So that
I like
pick
that.
I like the pick, but that pick is going to make another team in the first round extremely happy, because that is not at all where I thought they were going to go. So one man's treasure. So next up, hometown team, the Denver Broncos. We are going to bypass the tight end position here for now with the Broncos because of the Evan Ingram signing in the offseason. So I'm going to say they're going to punt that in the first round and look deeper in the draft for maybe another tight end. But what they do need some help with is a true standout wide receiver to help Cortland Sutton along. We've seen a couple different things out of Marvin Mims, more of a deep play threat. Little Jordan Humphrey moved on. And not that he was going to be an all-pro, but he was a guy who'd been with Sean Payton and always just kind of found a way. But that's okay. We're going to take a player from his alma mater, and we're going to use that to kind of help fill the place here. So Matthew Golden out of Texas is going to be joining the Denver Broncos wide receiving corps.
All righty. That puts Pittsburgh on the clock, and the Steelers were, they certainly have some kind of glaring holes, right? One of those being quarterback, one of those being running back, defensive line, wide receiver, offensive line, and who knows, they may try and still fill that quarterback position of need through free agency here, but at this point, there's not really another quarterback that I would see kind of sliding up and going into the first round in this draft class. So the Steelers gonna look at another position that we've seen Arthur Smith absolutely just love taking running backs here, and Omarion Hampton I think is the guy that they'll end up selecting with this pick here. And Omarion Hampton certainly kind of fits that big body bruiser between the tackles kind of guy that Arthur Smith tends to like to run, and then you can pair him with Tyler Warren being the change of pace and outside the tackles and receiving back.
All right, that puts the Chargers on the clock here at 22. Team needs tight end, wide receiver, D-line. I've gone ahead because Indianapolis went ahead and took Tyler Warren there at 14. I still think there is value in the tight end position here. So I've gone with Colston Loveland, the Michigan man, 245, 6'5", big target to help Justin Herbert take a little bit off of there. So I think that's like you have to do what you can to help and put stressors on the defense, and a pass catching tight end is a great option. So that's what I'm going to go with. Is Colston Loveland.
I like that. I think Derek and I both had that in last week's also.
Yep.
Figure Harbaugh won't turn down one of his own at a position of need.
Not a Michigan man. Nope.
So all good there. So moving on from the Chargers, we have the Green Bay Packers. Couple different needs here, cornerback, maybe solidifying some of that wide receiver position instead of just throwing out a bunch of jags. Definitely could use some help across the defensive line. And really the defensive lines where they're honing in here. So Kenneth Grant out of Oregon, I believe, is going to be heading to Wisconsin and helping to solidify the defensive line there in Green Bay. The hope is, clogging up the middle, making it a little bit tougher to run against that team. They gave up quite a bit of rushing yards to their opponent last year. I believe that they were 28th, 27th against the run last year. So really trying to improve upon that mark here. And I think Grant will be able to help with that.
I like that pick there. With that then moves the to pick number 24. That's Minnesota with the Vikings. And right now the Minnesota's got some needs around the cornerback, the offensive line, the safety, the linebacker, the defensive line. And there's a guy that I think we very well could see end up being a top 15 pick when it's all said and done here in a couple of weeks. But he's still on the board in this exercise, and I think that Minnesota can't wait to take cornerback Jahade Barron out of Texas with this pick.
All right, so that puts the Houston Texans on the clock. A couple different positions of need that they need: O-line help, wide receiver help, D-line help, safety, corner. I think so. I make this pick, and I think there's a caveat here. I'll tell you who the pick. The pick is Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, just up the road from Houston. He is a disruptive player, but did have a few personal fouls called against him that were dead ball personal fouls that actually ended up costing his team a little bit. So he is going to have to prove that he is not a liability, and I think that he can do that. There's some maturing that needs to happen, right? But he was a very good player on a pretty good A&M defensive line. There were other parts of A&M's team that left a lot to be desired, but the defensive line was not one of those. In fact, there's another guy on that line that I have going later in this draft as well. So I'm going to go Shamar Stewart here, but I'm a little hesitant to take him. I do think the D-line, like Houston goes and grabs a guy that they've gotten to see a ton of, right? Like it's just up the road from them. They know him. They've probably talked to him several times at practice, sending their scouts out. So I'm gonna go Shamar Stewart here. I wouldn't be surprised if they go a different direction just because of the absent-minded penalties that he took that were pretty detrimental in several cases. In at least 2 games, they were detrimental penalties. But that's the pick I'm going with here.
Right on. Nothing wrong with that. So the LA Rams are on the clock now, and their primary need at the moment is at the linebacker position. And they are salivating over the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers, is that who I thought it was? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They are salivating at the fact that they get the best linebacker, middle linebacker type prospect here in the draft, and that is Jihad Campbell out of Alabama.
It was the Bucks at 19.
That's where it was. The Bucks at 19. That's where I thought he was going to go. So the Rams are going to take him there. He's going to plug right into that middle linebacker position. 116 tackles last year at Alabama. That'll absolutely translate to the professional level. This guy loves to hit the ball carrier. So he's going to be able to find those gaps and fit in LA very, very well. He's going to be instant playmaker as far as IDP formats.
I like that pick there. And so that moves to the 27th pick and the Baltimore Ravens with this one. And this was one that I did go back and forth a little bit on because it wouldn't surprise me, right, with the way that we've seen Baltimore draft in the past and really kind of focusing on the defensive side of the ball. It seems like in this with a lot of these kind of picks here. It wouldn't surprise me if a guy like Malachi Starks is still on the board. Wouldn't surprise me to see them go with a pick like that. But I've got them going in a different direction because they do need help at offensive line, cornerback, safety, defensive line, and edge rusher. But I think that they're going to go ahead and bolster that lineup a little bit and go ahead and take a guard in this one. And I've got them taking Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama.
And that puts the Detroit Lions up on the clock. They need help at edge, O-line, safety, D-line, wide receiver. 2 of those are basically D-line, so I have them addressing those needs. And I have them taking Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. There's a Dan Campbell connection, right? Dan Campbell, Texas A&M guy. Nick Scorton is actually from Bryan, College Station, where Texas A&M is, and he was a force up in Purdue for a couple years. Came down here, played his final season, and really showed that he can handle not just Big Ten offensive lines, but SEC offensive lines. And so I have Nick Scorton going to the Lions here. The A&M connection is the overarching reason why, but I do think that he could plug in and play a valuable role.
I like that. So the Commanders are up at 29. Spent a lot of capital via trade on the offensive side of the ball, whether it's through trade, free agency, everything else. So now they're going to be looking at the defensive side, and they're going with edge rusher Donovan Iziriku. I believe I'm saying that correctly. So he's going to be the newest commander going in there and trying to get after the quarterback, whether it's Jalen Hurts, I guess Russell Wilson, or Dak Prescott there. So he's welcome to DC, buddy. Good luck.
Right. Alrighty, and that puts the Bills on the clock here. Pick number 30, Buffalo has positional needs at cornerback, defensive line, wide receiver, edge, and safety. And this is one that I went back and forth on a few different ways here. Depending upon what cornerback is out there, would not surprise me to see Buffalo take cornerback with this first pick. But the fact that Nick Imawari fell to them here, the safety out of South Carolina, he's a very big body safety that can really move, right? He ran a sub 4.4 in the 40, and very athletic, can certainly play there, and is big enough to play either play the strong safety, but also athletic enough that he could be in the free safety type of spot there. So I think that they take a guy that they can kind of maneuver around that defense a little bit, and so that's where I've got them going with this selection.
That puts Kansas City, the runners-up, on the clock. They need help at D-line, O-line, edge, safety, wide receiver, tight end. So I could go a couple of different ways here. So if we look at who's left on the board for wide receiver, you've got Luther Burden, the third out of Missouri. He's 5'11", 208. That's a big boy right there. Short and compact is probably the way to say him. Also, Emeka Ibuka is there, and Jaden Higgins, probably not a first-round grade. We look at the O-line that is still left. We got Wyatt Milam out of West Virginia, Josh Connerly out of Oregon, and Tyler Booker out of Alabama. Those are probably the best options there. But I'm going to have them look at the defensive line here. And actually, I didn't realize this until as we were coming back down here and doing this. It's another former A&M guy, but he's at Ole Miss now. He transferred to Ole Miss, and so I'm going to go Walter Nolan here. He's a defensive tackle, 6'3", 305. They list him as a 3 technique, so really kind of that right on the nose tackle, if you will. We know how much Kansas City likes to plug up the middle of the field to prevent anything happening there and force teams outside away from the middle. So I think that Walter Nolan is the pick here.
No, fair enough. And then last but certainly not least, the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock at 32. I bobbed and weaved here just a little bit, thought maybe Derek's pick at 30 with Nick Amanwari would fall there. Maybe Philly goes with Malachi Starks because they do like their Georgia players there in Philadelphia. They like that mindset that Kirby has, and hey, it seemed to kind of work out there. So I'm not completely omitting Malachi from the Eagles here at 32, but going to the cornerback position where they did lose a couple players from that Super Bowl team, they need to plug in those holes and develop some youth. So Maxwell Harrison, the defensive back, is going to be heading to Philly to help them repeat as Super Bowl champions.
I like it. All righty. Well, that wraps up the first round here, and we anything that kind of stand out. Anybody that shocked you that went went where they did, or anybody that you're surprised didn't hear their name called in round one.
I think when it comes down to it, we'll probably see an extra wide receiver, maybe two, go here in the first round. It's not nearly as deep, but I do think that there's still some talent out there to be had. So if it does shake out like this, teams at the top end of the second are going to be extremely happy, particularly the Tennessee Titans, being able to take that pick at the top end and pair a receiver with their young quarterback. So we'll see how some of this shakes out. I mean, surprise-wise, I really think Jahad Campbell is going to Tampa Bay. I understand the Will Johnson pick, and I don't think it's a bad pick, Alex. Like, I think you made a sound argument for Will Johnson going and playing defensive back for him. He just feels like a Tampa Bay guy. Like he reminds me a little bit of Derek Brooks, and I'm not saying that he's that guy. I'm just saying that's what he kind of reminds me of. He's not quite as – I don't think he's quite as big as Quan Alexander in his prime, but he is a tackle machine like Quan Alexander was in his prime. So, maybe that's part of what I'm thinking of as well. But I wouldn't say it's a shocker like it, no way that either scenario isn't going to happen. But, it's just like we said earlier, this first round is not nearly as sexy as what we've seen in the past. A lot of trench guys getting some of the dirty work done to help teams progress. It's a deep running back class, so we'll see more running backs go here in day 2 and day 3. As multiple teams are looking to add depth at that position. But I think overall, Jackson Dart in the back half of this draft might be a surprise. But again, I think Derek spoke to it well that Sam Darnold's kind of on essentially a one-year deal. His buyout's pretty cheap. And so if they're going to start developing their guy, why not bring him in and give him a year to learn and develop? And you don't have to play him right away.
Right.
I think the thing that sticks out to me in this is we had 3 corners that went in this. No safeties. Excuse me. We had Damon Ward. Excuse me. Yeah. But only the 3 corners.
There was 4
that went.
There was 4. Kevin's last pick, Maxwell Harrison, puts us at 4.
My mistake there. But that is, I just feel like there's always gonna be more. Like, teams are looking to shut down, passing attacks. It's a passing league, so if you can get a good corner, develop him and have him under that 5th-year option, which I think is what's important about the first round here. That's something that probably doesn't get said enough. I mean, we know it, and we know it in the back of our minds. But the benefit of taking a guy in the first round is not because he will sell tickets or sell jerseys, but it is having that 5th-year option on him, which sometimes, if you strike gold on a guy and you've got him on the cheap for years 4 and 5, and you don't have to have that max contract until he's in year 6, you can lock him in, but you don't have to pay him that you've locked him in until year 6. That's really, really huge to some of these teams. So, and it can be the difference of having sustained success or, busting and picking early again. So, I think there will be, it always feels like there should be more corners gone. I know I was real O-line heavy with the teams that I was picking with. And to Kevin's point, like, this just feels like it's not it's not a ticket selling or a jersey selling first round, but man, is it hopefully going to improve some teams where they desperately need to improve. And we always know that there's going to be some sort of shocker that happens, like Bo Nix being taken when what's his face that went to Las Vegas was still on the board there. Now, I think that worked out
Brock
for both
Bowers.
teams.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that worked out for both teams, but still.
Or the fact that last year, right, 12 picks in, 6 quarterbacks had gone, right? Like, you know,
that was remarkable.
That was something else, right? And you look at like last year too, we didn't get our first defensive player until almost halfway through the draft. Like it was a very interesting thing. And this year it's seemingly kind of the opposite, right? Where I think you're going to see a lot more defensive players, a lot more. Yeah, this class has a lot of really good edge rushers and top end edge rushers in it, and some really good defensive line guys in it as well as some pretty good offensive line. Although not necessarily like a your real standout left tackle, but you've got pieces kind of all around that offensive line. You guys that could potentially move inside or play really well as a right tackle in there as well. So yeah, it's just very interesting how kind of year to year what that looks like. And to Kevin's point there as well, right? Like kind of was surprised that we only had a few wide receivers come off the board, because that's typically a position too where we're seeing teams reach like crazy these days. So any other thoughts on this on the mock 1.0?
I don't believe so.
All right.
Got to start somewhere.
We've done something. We've put a marker out there, right? Like when you're playing in a best ball golf tournament, put one out there, and then we'll just let everybody else try to eat, right? But we got to get one out there. So we put one out there.
All right, I like it. All righty. Well, we'll get into mock 2.0 next week, and mock 2.0 we'll start getting into where we can do some trades and have a little bit of interesting times with this one. So I think it'll be fun to see kind of the difference on that. But any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Enjoy, right? We got basketball
3 weeks away,
hockey winding down. Yeah, we're 3 weeks away from the draft. We have F1, we have the Masters this weekend. Like this is actually a good weekend to just kind of hang out, right? You went from the Final Four into final stretch hockey, basketball to the Masters. Like, I mean, it's a nice relaxing weekend to kind of welcome true spring here in April. So enjoy, get some honeydews done, make the girlfriend or wifey happy. But if you get a chance to sit down for an hour or two, there'll be something entertaining on.
I like it. Alex, any final thoughts out there?
Avs are in overtime. I'm gonna cut it short, so I might be able to watch that.
There you go. All righty. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. Always a lot of fun interacting and chatting with everybody out there. We'll be back again next week when we're going through the mock 2.0. You can find us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. Do us a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch y'all next week. He's Alex. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.